Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today I want to take a look at Sparky Linux. I'm out at the website right now, and they got a really nice looking web page here right off the bat. I'm liking that. Looks like they even have a dark mode up here in the corner. Nice. I think I'll go with that. So anyways, Sparky Linux is based on Debian Testing, and the new release was just released today, March 8th, 2022. So as the time of this video, we are in the testing bookworm of the new image here that was released, which is really great. And it looks like this is a semi-rolling release. It updates like every 6 months or so, which is very cool. So Sparky Linux is a GNU-based Linux distro created on top of Debian GNU Linux OS. Wow. Sparky's fast, lightweight, fully customizable OS, which offers a few versions for different users, different tasks. Nice. So here in the About page, it kind of gives a quick overview of what you can expect to find in here. So we got that it's a fully featured OS with a lightweight desktop environment, which works out of the box and contains a selection of pre-installed, commonly used software for home users. And then there's also a version that has just a minimal GUI with open box window manager, pre-installed with only basic software, and Debian plus any desktop environment or window manager that you like. Nice. So there's 3 special editions here that are available. One is called the Game Over for gamers. Now these are the special versions. These are in addition to the mainline ones that are offered here. There's also one called Multimedia for audio, video, and HTML pages creating Xfce. So that's cool. And then a rescue disk. So you can download a rescue image if you like, which would be a lot smaller than the other ones. And then a minimal CLI with no X servers. So that would be like strictly a command line install. And so if you're setting up maybe like a server or something, that would be just perfect. So Sparky supports about 20 desktop environments, wow, and window managers for freedom of choice. I'm liking that. And then they have 2 flavors, Sparky Stable and then the Rolling. So the Stable, of course, is the best choice if you're going to change over to a new daily driver and you need stability. Sparky Rolling, it says here, is targeted more towards the advanced users who aren't afraid of a little less stable version of apps, but they want to work with the latest software. So kind of like working in Arch, I guess. The difference is in Arch, I guess you have access to pretty much any Linux software in the world that exists, and you can get it right there. Whereas it's not quite as easy to get every app in the world in Debian, but pretty close. And sometimes there's a few Debian apps out there that are really hard to find in Arch. So it all kind of comes out in the wash eventually. All right, so let's take a look at this. I'm going to jump over to the download page, and here they got their different flavors. So here we got the stable and the semi-rolling, and of course I would want to go with the semi-rolling just because I like the newness. Plus I believe the semi-rolling is the one that just got the new update. So if I hit that, that should take us to the new releases, and here we go. We got the download semi-rolling edition. And it looks like we got SourceForge, OSDN, and BitTorrent. So a lot of different choices. And then we can also choose from minimal GUI, minimal command line. So if you want something really bare bones, this is where you would go. And then our special editions are down here. These aren't quite the newest, but they're up there. And earlier I took a look at the Game Over edition, which was pretty cool. And actually Game Over is based on Xfce. It's really exactly the same as the Xfce up here, except the Xfce up here is new. It's brand new. It's dated March 2022, whereas the Game Over is from December 2021. So really, if you like the Game Over, the main difference that I saw in the Game Over version was that in the games directory, there was a bunch of games installed already, pre-installed, And you can actually get those through the AppTus app that's on there. And I'll show you that in the review. And then, of course, it has PlayOnLinux as well. So I'll kind of do a little bit of a hybrid review and kind of duplicate it a little bit with the PlayOnLinux and just kind of give you an idea of what that's all about. So let's go with the Xfce so we can do that. I'm going to just select the torrent here because I get really fast downloads with my qbit torrent application. So I'm going to hit this and then load it in and I'll be right back. Okay, and I've gone ahead and installed Sparky Linux off camera because it was just a very basic, simple install. The same as all the other Calamares installs that you've seen in a million videos. So let's get right to it. So this is what you see when you first encounter your boot up screen. So we got our Sparky Linux, and then they also have advanced options. If we pop in there real quick, you can kind of see the kernel that is available right now, which is 5.16.0-3. So that is a pretty new kernel, very new. I'm liking that. I'm just going to hit escape and go back and press enter. And let's log in because I'm assuming it worked. Okay, here's our Sparky Linux splash screen. That looks pretty nice. Now we should be coming up to the greeter. And there we go. So I'm going to log right in, put in my username and my password. And we got right in. Nice. And I like the wallpaper. That's pretty sharp looking. I'm going to set the display real quick to get our display happening in the right resolution. I'm going to go with 1920 by 1080 and apply that. And then keep. Excellent. Okay, so here we have our welcome screen. Nice. And then our typical Xfce desktop, which is looking good. And then here's our file menu. And it looks like there's updates available. So yes, let's run the update tool or upgrade tool. So enter in my password, and we'll let that do its system upgrade here. So it looks like that part of it is working pretty smooth. So here it needs to get 45 megs of archives, not too shabby, and then 107 additional space. Do you want to upgrade now? Yes. And there's a Sparky terminal. I like that so I can kind of see what's going on. And so it's downloading stuff from the Debian bookworm repositories. All right, system's up to date. So I'm going to just hit that. And now I don't have to be distracted anymore. So that was a very quick update. I like that. So anyways, this isn't too shabby, but if you really want to have it the opposite way, I'm more comfortable the other way. So all you got to do is just right click, hit properties, and then here we have appearance. And if you go over here and position categories next to panel button, that'll reverse it so the categories are on this side. And then if you want them to switch while you're hovering, just go to behavior and then select the switch categories by hovering checkbox. And now they will switch. Nice. And then if you kind of like a little bit of a Windows 10-ish kind of look, you can actually grab this in the corner and stretch that out a little bit, however far you want. And then you can come up here under General in your Whisker menu properties and select Show as Icons. And then when you come over here, you got icons in there. So yeah, a little bit of a Windows-ish look. And then you can adjust the icon sizes over here by just going to the application icon size, and you can crank that up a little bit like to normal. And then they'll be bigger, so you can do that too, and that kind of looks even more Windows-like if you're used to a Windows environment. And then we can come down here to panel, and I can close this, by the way, the Whisker menu, and we can come down here to panel and go into panel preferences, come up here, and then go to appearance and select dark mode. just like that. So now if we close that and go over here, now it looks even better. Yes, so I'm kind of liking that. So I think I'm going to just kind of do that. And I know it's not the original setup for the review, but you know, part of when you install stuff, you want to know how to configure things anyway and get them more tuned into your taste. So if your taste is anything like my taste, then that's how you do it if you're not real familiar with Linux. There you go. And let's take a look at our welcome app real quick before we go exploring the other stuff. So here it's got our homepage, forums, wiki, Git repo link. Wow, that's nice. So you can go directly to their GitHub page, and then a donation link, which is always useful. Then we have AppCenter. Nice. Upgrade button, which is what we just did, except it was automatic, so I didn't have to do anything. About, system info, and backup. So let's take a look at our AppCenter. They're using APTus on here. And APTus is something that I'm not real familiar with. I haven't really messed with that actually at all. So this is kind of new to me. But here, this looks really cool. They got all the categories here. So here we can like go in here and look at different categories, graphics, desktops. If you want to look at other desktops and maybe install something else, here you got a choice of a ton of different desktops. Cinnamon, Budgie, CDE, which I'm not sure what that is. Awesome, Enlightenment, Fluxbox, wow, GNOME, of course, all the greats. So you have a lot of choices here if you want to change desktops and go to something else. Looks like that's a kind of an easy way to grab it. And then of course we got other things here like graphics, and we can drill down to editors, viewers, screenshot tools, and others. So let's look at editors. We got Blender, Darktable, Inkscape, and so forth. OpenTunes, nice. So this is really laid out nice. I like this. This is something I think I could like. I'm going to take a look at Inkscape real quick because I know the latest version is 1.1.2. And it is the latest version here, 1.1.2-3. So that's good to see right from the repos. APTus really loads in very quick. It doesn't have a lot of graphics, so you don't have to wait for a bunch of metadata to download on a first time use. And I'm just going to install this just to see how the installer works. And I see that it opened this terminal, so that's nice. And it's installing really quite quick and smoothly. Very cool. So after the install, I'm assuming the APTus window is going to open back up again. Okay, and it did. Cool. So it looks like to get back to where we were at, we can either hit the back arrow here, or the Applications tab, or Exit. I'm going to hit Exit because I want to see if it actually closes down the whole application or if it takes me back a page. I'm hoping it'll take me back a page, but let's go click. It did. Nice. Very cool. All right. So now Inkscape should be installed. So if I go in my menu and jump up here to graphics, there it is. Nice. So that went in nicely. Very good. And so if we look at our apps here, we got our accessories. And these are all, typical Xfce stuff. You got a passwords and keys and screenshot, Xarchiver. Tunar is our file manager. I think I'll open that while I'm here. And it looks like by default we got a light theme here. And then under development we got an icon browser, so not really installed under anything under there, which I wouldn't expect it to be really by default. And then we got our graphics apps, which we just installed Inkscape. And then we got our document scanner, Image Magic. We got an image viewer. And it looks like LibreOffice is installed because we have Draw there. And so under Internet, we got Firefox, which we just checked out, latest version. And also transmissions installed. UGET, RiseUp VPN, Thunderbird is an email client. So great. And under multimedia, we got Cheese, which is a cool GNOME app with for a camera. Xfce, I think that's how that's pronounced. Xfce. Listen to, explore, manage your audio collection. Nice. Pulse Audio Volume Radio Station. Now that looks interesting. VLC Media, Vocal Screen, which is a nice screen recorder for your desktop if you want to record stuff that you're doing. And then XFburn, which is a nice CD and DVD burning app. Let's open up this online streaming radio. This looks kind of cool. I don't think I've ever really used this before. So I hit open and now it's down in our task manager down here. So if I just click on that, wow, it brings up this menu and we got all this stuff here, all these different types of music. Wow, classical, country, dance, instrumental, jazz, Latin, reggae, rock, romantic, soundtracks. Wow, techno, electronic, and reload bookmarks. I'm not familiar with that genre. All the years I played guitar, I've never played reload bookmarks type music. No, I'm kidding. So let's check it out. So rock. Let's go with the first one and see what happens. Cool. There it is. It even gives up here what shows what's playing. Okay, so I like that that's installed by default. That's a nice touch there. And then under Office, LibreOffice is installed by default. Very cool. And so if I open this up, I'm assuming this is probably pretty much the latest version as well. So if I go to About, we are running 7.3.1.1. Yes. Quite on the edge. Very cool. And then, of course, we got our settings here. And our system. These are all the normal stuff. But here we got our APTus AppCenter. That's what we launched from the Welcome Center, which is open right now. And then our system upgrade utility. Very cool. You can put a schedule on there. That's, I think, already running by default. And then there's our time shift, which is great, especially if you want to restore your system to a previous state. Time shift will do that for you. You got to run it the first time, though. So the first time you run time shift, it'll just kind of get things set up for you. It's got a little guided wizard there. And then after that, you'll have backups of your settings. So if something goes wrong in the future and you totally hose something and it quits working after installing something, then you can use time shift to go back to your previous state. And then you're back to normal again right after a reboot. So very nice. So earlier I was talking about Game Over version. And so Game Over version of Sparky Linux is Xfce based just like this. So this is just what the Game Over version environment looks like. However, it's got a games category, which is not here at the moment. And so in the games category, it's got a bunch of pre-installed games. And those games actually you can get right here from the APTus AppCenter. If you hit games, then it's got all these different categories of games, including arcade, puzzle, sports, strategy, emulators, all this stuff. So what they did essentially was they pre-installed a bunch of games in here. So like if I was to hit arcade, I could pick up a bunch of things. And one of the games that was installed was Pac-Man. It was a Pac-Man clone, which was here. And so that was installed, and there must have been like 20 games on there. But for me, personally, I would prefer, if I just wanted a bunch of games, to go in here and just pick out the games I wanted myself. And then that way I just don't have, you know, like 100 games sitting around that I would never use. But it's all personal taste. So after that's installed, I come up here, and now we have a games folder, and there's Pac-Man. So yeah, that's kind of a primitive copy of Pac-Man, but it looks mildly entertaining. Hit my arrow keys and I can move in there. Not hearing any sound, but yeah, I think I'll just let myself get 8. Nice. So Pac-Man. So if we go back, you can just keep choosing games and install things to your heart's content. You can also use search if you want to search for something specific, like 0AD, maybe. Okay, I guess that's not there. That kind of surprised me. Oh, next page. But I would have thought that it would have, like, took me there anyway. Wait a minute. There it is. I was thinking, oh, I don't know why. But anyways, so 0AD is the first result anyway. So, yeah. So if you want to install that, you can hit that and install it in there too. And then you'll have 2 games under your belt. And the installer works really nice, very smooth. Gives you lots of info there and your version and all that. So installing things through this AppTus is really pretty painless. I am liking it a lot. And I'm just going to stop the install on that real quick because that could take a while. So if I go back here, it's probably under games, but also what's on the Game Over edition is PlayOnLinux. And PlayOnLinux allows you to play Windows games as well as do other Windows-based apps, but it gives you an environment where it's really easy to do. WinAPI, that's where it is. Yeah. So I'm going to install PlayOnLinux real quick, and then that'll kind of duplicate what we have in our game edition there, Game Over. I would have called it Game On, but that's just me. So I'm going to hit yes, and then we'll let that install. And that's installing really fast, actually. So I was going to say I'll be right back, but I guess I don't have to because it's moving so fast. We're almost up to 99%. Cool. All right, so quick download. It's just I'm gonna let it install here. And then I'm gonna show you a little bit about PlayOnLinux in case you're not familiar with it. PlayOnLinux is really cool. And I think it's a great app to have on here. Even if you're not just playing games, this works for all kinds of Microsoft apps. If you want to run Windows and you're not real good with Wine and you don't want to use Wine with a console, PlayOnLinux is a great back end because a lot of times if you're going to install something like maybe some version of Office or an older version of Photoshop or something, if you do it manually in Wine using the console, it can be a bit of a trick to get it working properly, and you have to kind of know what you're doing. But in PlayOnLinux, it kind of takes care of all those little dependencies and all by itself. And you can also set up different versions of Wine, so you can run newer versions or older versions, 32-bit, 64-bit if you want to get really fancy. You can do all that too, and PlayOnLinux just makes it super easy. Okay, I'm back and it installed. I had to pause the video there because it took a while to install, about 6 or 7 minutes, I think. So now if we go up here into menu, we should see PlayOnLinux somewhere under System. So if I go here and open up PlayOnLinux, cool, we get this little PlayOnLinux interface. And I'm just going to close our AppTus AppCenter. And so in here, the first time you run PlayOnLinux, what it does is it downloads metadata and it builds a database of default applications that you can choose from a menu. And so that usually takes about a minute or so the first time. But after that, you don't have that wait anymore. So this is just kind of a one-time thing. And so it's almost done. You can see down here in the little progress bar is almost complete. So it should just be a second, and then I won't have to think of stuff to fill in empty airtime with. That'll be nice. Cool. All right, it looks like it refreshed. So anyways, if we come up here and we hit our install button, then you get this other window that opens up, and you got all these different categories: accessories, development, education, games, graphics, internet, multimedia, and so forth. So, like I was saying, there's a lot more to PlayOnLinux than just games. You got all these different things. Like here under graphics, you got some older Adobe software that you can run. And the things that are in red here, testing versions, like if you uncheck testing there, that'll disappear. But here you got like Adobe Fireworks, MX, Illustrator, Photoshop Lightroom, wow, Flowscape, Picasa, View, Lego Digital Designer, wow, cool. All kinds of cool stuff. And also you can just download apps from the internet too, like a Windows MSI or EXE file, and then come over here and click install a non-listed program, and then it'll open up a wizard here. So anyways, if we click on games here, then we got all these different games to choose from. And so tons of stuff. Age of Empires 1 and 2 and 3. Airport Madness, Alien Breed, tons of stuff. Angry Birds. And this is just the A's. So there's tons of things to choose from, for sure. I saw Fortnite clone up here, right here, yeah, Fortnite. And now that I'm looking at that, I just kind of want to bring something up. One thing, like especially if you're downloading the game over version and you got games in mind, you want to keep in mind that not all games work in Linux. And Fortnite's one of them. If you're expecting to play Fortnite in Linux and just install it, it's not going to work, unfortunately. Fortnite is one of those things that you can't play in Linux, at least as of the time of this video. And from what I understand, Epic is not, they don't have any plans to support Linux either, because they feel that it's too easy to cheat from Linux. And the anti-cheat is the main reason why you can't run Fortnite from Linux, because it's got an anti-cheat algorithm in there and you can't do anything. So that kind of stops you from it. And if you're thinking, well, run it from a virtual machine, that's probably not going to work either, because it's not going to be able to utilize your GPU. Now, if you use KVM or QEMU, there are ways that you can do a GPU bypass. Actually, that's a GPU pass-through. You can do a GPU pass-through, but it's super complicated. And even if you are successful, like if you're a Linux wizard and you successfully configure your KVM with a GPU pass-through, from what I've heard, it still doesn't work. So, but I can't tell you that firsthand. That's just some things I found out doing research in the past. So yeah, I would probably pretty much write off Fortnite if that's something you have in mind for Linux. You're just going to need a Windows machine, I'm afraid. And if you were going to be installing like Adobe, the older version of Adobe Photoshop that we saw earlier, then you'd want to have a copy of Adobe Photoshop and so forth on your machine ready to go. So when you run the installer, it'll set up the environment for you and tailor it so Photoshop will work. And again, you won't have to do all those special configurations to get it going, because PlayOnLinux does it all for you. So that's just kind of a quick sample of how that goes. So let's go into our terminal real quick. And I don't think HTOP is installed on here. So I'm just going to install it real quick. So I'm going to do a sudo apt install HTOP. Okay, now it's installed. So let me hit HTOP. 649 megs, not bad. And I have Dolphin open. So that's pretty decent use of resources there. Looking good. And then if we go in here, I don't think there's NeoFetch on here. No NeoFetch. Well, let's do this. Let's do a cat /etc /os -release. And here we got some information. So it's showing our pretty name is Sparky Linux 7. Orion belt, nice. And then we got our home URL, support URL here, and then a bug report URL. And that kind of reminds me, I did a bug report just a little while ago. I wrote to these guys that I was sitting here and using Sparky Linux, and all of a sudden I looked up and I noticed a bug crawling across the ceiling, and then he fell off and landed my coffee. I'm really ticked off. What are you guys gonna do about it? I demand action. Looking forward to your response. Warm regards, Jack. And heck, if they didn't respond really quick too. They sent me a JPEG, a picture of a hand with a middle finger sticking up. I'm not sure what they meant by that. It was kind of weird, but nah, I'm kidding. Actually, the guys at Sparky Linux would never do that. However, I wouldn't blame them. All right, so anyway, so that's our information there. So we do got something really cutting edge here, and I really like the idea of running Debian cutting edge. I'm going to minimize that real quick and then open up my Thunar browser here, and let's just go into our appearance real quick and see what we got here for themes. So if I run down here and open up appearance, looks like Sparky Linux 6, and we got Sparky Linux 5. So let's see what that is. Almost the same, but a little bit different. So what changes is the accent over here on the side, so it kind of turns gray. Nice. And I guess I could have seen that here in the style window. So then we got all the default Xfce too. So by default, it's really the Sparky Linux and themes here that are customized, and they both seem to be light themes. So if you want a dark theme, you would want to choose either from one of the ones here on the list or download a theme from online. Xfcelook.org, I think, is the website where you can go and download those guys. And so if you wanted to do that, you would just go here to xfce-look.org in your web browser, and it will bring you out here. And then here you can find all kinds of different themes optimized just for Xfce. And I like this website. This is always a nice resource to go to. And I like to sort by rating. So I would just click on this rating tab here, and then it shows your highest rated ones first. And then all you have to do is go and browse for a dark theme. And this looks kind of different. I don't think I ever tried this one before. It's got a high rating, 9.4, so I'm just going to click on that just for fun. So if we go over here, we can select download or install. And here it says works with Pling Store or OCS URL. And I don't know if it's installed on here by default, but I'm just going to hit one of these under install. And I think I'll try Black Plum. That looks kind of interesting. And let's see if it'll do it. So I'm going to click install and didn't get a response, so I'm going to install it. Up here it shows you how to spell it if you forget, but it's OCS-URL. I've never tried Pling Store, but I know OCS URL is what I've always used. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to just type in sudo apt install OCS-URL. And nothing. So let's try Pling Store. Pling-store. Nothing. Okay. So I guess I would have to go out and find that. I guess you got to click on the link. Typically, on a lot of distros, you can just get it right through the package manager. However, since it's not available, we can just click on the link here. Click on Files. And then there's a DEB file here. So for this distro, we would want to click on this guy here, the OCS DEB, hit download. And then we'll just go with open with GDEB. And then it'll install it for us. I'm going to hit install package. And easy peasy. That was probably even easier than opening up the terminal. So that's the done deal. So I'm going to go back to my tab here with the theme, and I'm going to hit install again, select the material black, plum, hit install, and this time we should get a little window. Here we go. And I'm going to say always allow these type of links. choose application, and OCS URL is highlighted by default, and I'm going to hit always again on the checkbox, open link, and then OK to install. Nice, and that installed our theme automatically. That way we didn't have to manually put it in a .themes folder in our home folder. So now if I go back to Appearance, I think I'll have to close out of Appearance and go back in so it'll refresh. And I'm going to make this menu a little taller. I'm just going to stretch that up there. So now if I go to Settings and Appearance, there it is. So if I click on it, it should change instantly, and I'm liking it already. I like the purple in there. I suspected it would probably be kind of a plum color. So now if I go and look in here, we got this plum background here. Nice. So yes, now we got a dark theme, and that's how you get one in case you're not familiar with Xfce. And then we can go over to icons, and you can do the same thing with icons. I'm just going to use the Tele Dark so everything matches better over here. You can see it highlights now. So I'm just going to kind of go with that. But like I said, if you got a certain icon theme, like back here I think it was showing sweet icon or candy icon, something like that, in our results. Right here, candy icons. So you would just download those the same way by clicking on it and then hitting install. And of course, now that OCS URL is already installed, you don't have to go through that process again. So you're good to go. Nice. All right. So now we got themed out a little bit. And I guess the last thing I would do is just set up the wallpaper. So I'd come in here to Desktop Settings. And then we got a bunch of wallpaper here to choose from. And nice looking wallpaper. I actually like the default too. The default looks really great. But a lot of nice wallpaper that they included here. I think I'll go with that one. That looks nice. Good cityscape. Fantastic. And then we got our menu and icon settings. These are the default settings for your desktop. And here you can set your icon size. So if you want them smaller, you can, or bigger. I made them bigger by mistake. They'll change size as you're dynamically as you're clicking it, which is cool. 48 was the default, but you can make them smaller or bigger to your heart's content. And then down here you can set your default icons. And they're all checked here by default. So you can turn those on and off as you wish. And I kind of like the default, so I'm going to go with that. So looking good. And I guess there's nothing new I can add to this, but I'm telling you what, Sparky Linux has really got me pretty excited. I like this distro a lot. Anything that's cutting edge other than Arch is pretty exciting to me, because sometimes I like having Arch alternatives to play with. Arch has always been my favorite because I need every kind of software available in the book that you can think of. And so in Arch, I'm always guaranteed to get something or to find it, either in the package repository or in the AUR. So it's always there. However, sometimes you need a change of platform for whatever reason. And Debian is a really nice platform, and their repos actually probably have more binaries available than Arch as far as binaries go, because in the AUR, those are actually things that you would build, and using something like Yay or Yower will manage the building process for you if you have that installed on your Arch distro. Debian probably has a higher number of binaries, and so that can be kind of an advantage too. And if you're not like me, most people don't need to have every software in the world available to them. So it's really a non-issue for most people. And what package platform or package manager that you're running your platform, whether it's RPM, Debian, or Arch as the major three. Other than that, Linux is Linux. So You know, it's a matter of semantics, I guess, or taste. And choice. That's what it's all about. And Sparky Linux has such a huge choice of desktops available that you can just access right in the APTus package manager, which I think is really cool. By the way, Synaptics is also available on here. Synaptics has always been one of my overall favorite package managers on Debian and Ubuntu. Sparky Linux, it feels very stable. Everything I've done in here, I didn't run into any glitches. They say on the website that this is not really intended for beginners, so if you're like brand new to Linux, you probably want to just go with something that's more beginner friendly, like maybe Linux Mint or something to that effect. So beginners may not have the best experience unless you're somebody that's not afraid to get in there and tinker. If you're new to Linux but you're comfortable with technology and you're comfortable with getting in there and experimenting on your computer and you're not intimidated by configuring things, then that's different. But if you're brand new and green in the gills, then you probably want to go with something simpler. However, if I was a beginner, personally, even though I'm technically inclined, I would be fine with this. I would learn my way around just fine, and this environment would look very Windows-like if I was coming over from Windows. So personally, I wouldn't have any issues at all with it. And if you were setting it up for somebody, you know what you're doing, and you set it up for a friend, they probably wouldn't have any real issues either. But if you wanted to be 100% sure, you could install the stable version for them instead, rather than the testing, which is less cutting edge, but if they don't know what they're doing on the computer, they wouldn't know the difference anyway. And you would have less headaches having to go down and fix their stuff. So definitely, Sparky Linux, I give you a double thumbs up. This is really a fantastic distro here. I like all the choices that you get, the game over and the multimedia version, which I didn't even cover, but the multimedia has a lot of multimedia related apps that are pre-installed. And again, that's just a couple months behind. Those images are from December, which is only a few months previous to this video. So not really a lot of difference there. The OS release is the same. It's the release is Sparky Linux 7 Orion Belt, just like this one. So when running the updates, it's probably identical in the release there as well. And like I said, 6 months rolling. I think it is semi-rolling, if I recall correctly. And I think that's a huge plus too. I love it when you can get a Debian distro that has a rolling tendency, so you don't have to go and manually update it yourself, upgrade it. Really liking it. And so, yeah, that kind of goes with the territory with testing. So like I said, 2 thumbs up, and here's 2 more. Because Sparky Linux is really nice, and this is something I would definitely use. I'd be very comfortable with this. Heck yeah, I would definitely use it on my computer and be just fine with it. And to me, it would be like the best alternative to Arch, in my personal opinion, would be using something just like this. If I needed an alternative and wanted to go Debian, this is my comfort zone. So this is what I would like. And with that, I hope this review was helpful and that I didn't ramble too much. And if it helped, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. If it didn't help, leave me 2 thumbs up. And hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.